Hello, Divine Souls, and welcome to my channel, Journey of Soul Mastery. I am your host, Rebekah Cortez. If you're new to the channel, the emphasis is empowerment, empowering your states of existence. And the focus of this video is waves of evolution, understanding the layers of growth. Let's dive in. When we are not choosing to operate from higher perceptions, we tend to latch on to really negative mental states that promote lower vibrational thoughts that can spiral us into very dark and unstable emotional states. There's not a person on the planet that can identify with that last statement. We can experience lower states of depression and sink into lower mindsets that cause us to think that nothing ever works to our favor. This is a very fear-based mindset that causes high amounts of stress, anxiety, and even panic attacks regarding the future and what it holds for us, because we feed into the falseness that we are running out of time to accomplish tiers of success, modeled according to the ego matrix. This is only one example of the falseness that we face when we're operating from ego. States of lower vibrational patterns promote us being in direct opposition to accepting the truth of our higher divine nature and potential. And the longer we desperately cleave to the familiarity of lower vibrational falseness within ego patterns, the more difficulty we will experience deprogramming out of fear. And fear governs over the ego matrix. We must become willing to awaken to the truth of our spiritual nature. This means going against the grain of programming and become truth seekers of ourselves and our own reality and how we define that according to our own authentic truth. It is important to become aware of the importance that spiritual growth cycles promote, which is transcendence and evolution, through the opportunities to cycle through all the elements within our ego patterns that link to traumatic experiences we have suffered. We mustn't get discouraged about the repetitive nature of growth cycles or negatively perceive the waves in which growth cycles come and go to be a game that is just toying with our emotions. Growth cycles come in waves to offer us the opportunity to process through every speck of negativity and toxicity attached to traumatic experiences until all fragments surrounding that specific trauma has undergone closure and healing, which promotes more light returning into our existence and our state of beingness. There are layers to our ego deprogramming, which require numerous waves of expansion to cycle through. I've experienced this myself, and if you don't perceive these waves of growth from an elevated standpoint, it can have a very negative impact on your mental and emotional stability. We can control our mental and emotional states of existence. It's just a matter of what you're choosing to focus on the most, whether it's feeding into fear or elevating your perceptions to include a more loving, compassionate approach. We can find ourselves diving into blame games or being overly critical of ourselves and others, and being critical of our potential and even judging our ability to get over the past and move on from a negative perception. This diminishes our personal power, strength, and courage. Just as each phase of ascension has layers that we must process through, the same is true to the layers we must process through in the deprogramming and healing process of spiritual evolution. We all have the capacity to heal what has been damaged. Our soul never takes on or agrees to that which is beyond our capacity. We are always more than the pain and suffering we have been subjected to. In the beginning of our journey, we think that our pain and suffering is larger than us and that we will never rise above it. And it is difficult to conceive of achieving deep healing and returning to our authentic light when we perceive it from ego. Ego actually becomes our hell on earth when we strengthen its stronghold by choosing to feed into the falseness that it represents. Ego shadows our level of conscious perception and our potential to connect to our higher universalness. True healing requires purging. Purging all that the ego houses requires embracing the truth that we are both dark and light. Ego is the dark potentiality we are all capable of wielding. Ego requires us operating from the platform of fear in order to activate and invoke the dark conditioning and imprinting within the constructs of the ego matrix. Growth cycles come in waves throughout the journey of returning to our authentic expression of sovereign light, because deprogramming out of ego conditioning is a journey that requires time to shift through all the layers upon layers we have adopted throughout our childhood and young adult years that have been reinforced through our adult years. One day we stop perpetuating the madness of ego by waking up, and we start letting go of the ego matrix. Patience and grace are important throughout our exploratory journey of self, but it is also key to remember to extend that patience and grace to others. All that choose to participate in the conscious process of transcendence to achieve soul evolution, journey through the long and sometimes difficult but not undoable process of purging the unwanted falseness held within the ego model. Some here on earth at this time are choosing to operate in strict opposition of their higher universal potential. And they're very conscious of this choice, but there are so many that are choosing to consciously embrace the path of transcendence. And each of us doing so are walking very diverse, individualized paths, shifting through the multidimensional layers to achieve expansion of consciousness and return to the wholeness states of unconditional love, which is the highest state of consciousness. Everyone on this planet has been conditioned to perceive falseness as truth. And we have adopted this ego matrix as our own truth. But those who are willing of heart, body, and mind to embrace the path of self-actualization will slowly and in their own timing return to their higher version of truth and authentic nature and integrate with their divine universal beingness, also known as the Oversoul. It's through our willingness to face the shadowed aspects within we embrace the journey of evolutionary expansion through seizing the waves of opportunity that growth cycles present for us to deprogram out of fear as a primary platform that we choose to operate from. Healing comes in layers, so growth is also achieved by peeling back the multidimensional layers within every aspect of our ego personality, perceptions, and experiences, behaviors, and so on. At first, we won't even be conscious of our ego or perceive our actions as anything other than quote-unquote normal, and we do not spend any time questioning how things are done and asking deeper questions that challenge the dark matrix. The first layer of spiritual evolution is accepting the truth of our duality, within which is ego versus soul, light versus dark, positive versus negative. We must awaken to this truth in order to look into the shadows of our past without feeding into the lower vibrations of guilt, shame, judgment, so we can elevate or alchemize the energy surrounding experiences to find peace through closure and transcendence through understanding. It is essential to broaden your perspective, to embrace the truth that we are both equally capable of horrific, dark acts as we are capable of extraordinarily loving acts. One purpose of this journey is remembering the universal force or love consciousness and accepting the truth that we are already love. We just require shedding the falseness of ego and deprogramming out of the false matrix that keeps us imprisoned to fear and incapable of perceiving our highest potentiality. Our oversoul is our highest version of vibratory potential, and the journey through growth cycles is the path that promotes awareness, activation of our spiritual DNA, and the path of integration to all that is sovereign truth through authentic expression in our existence. So when it comes to the healing process, remember that healing is a journey, and this journey requires us shifting through the layers upon layers that are held within the trauma that we have been subjected to in very negative experiences. And growth cycles assist us in managing the ways of evolution and ascension progression. At first, our conscious approach to growth will be on a very surface level until we're ready to face the deeper, multidimensional levels. I used to perceive my own growth cycles as if I was doing something wrong or there was something wrong with me, and this is why, even though I faced trauma and demons of my past, they would eventually cycle back around for me to yet once again face them again. This process, defined by ego, would say that I was failing at some aspect of the healing process, or it wouldn't keep coming back around. But this is total falseness to perceive it this way. This is a lower vibrational standpoint. We have to deprogram out of ego very slowly and at our own pace, and not compare our journey to another person's journey. Because if we start to do that, it becomes very overwhelming and frustrating. We all had to learn how to crawl before we walk, and we had to walk before we run. So slow down. You have all the time you need to accomplish what you came here to accomplish. Be patient and gracious with yourself. There are layers of growth required in the ascension process in order to deprogram the unwanted and return to your light body state. To achieve more light, you must let go of all that is false, adopted, imprinted, and conditioned to be liberated enough to allow yourself the right and freedom to return to the divinity of your authentic nature. This is the concept behind the death and rebirth cycles, also known as dark night of the soul growth cycles, that open the dimensional potentiality for growth through expansion of our perception and elevation of our consciousness. Much like learning how to play an instrument, we must start slowly and pace ourselves to successfully overcome the challenges that oppose our ability to master the fluidity of the music synergistically being presented. Our growth journey should be perceived in the same way, which assists us in lowering the pressure we place on ourselves and just relax and listen to the wisdom and guidance of our oversoul through the numerous pathways of intuition. We can set the pace of progress to allow ourselves the time required to dissect, purge, recycle through all the falseness and alchemize it back into light in our pursuit of self-mastery. So just because you face an aspect of your past or an aspect of trauma that impacted you negatively once or even twice does not mean that it won't cycle back around. And it doesn't mean the fear and mental, emotional, and physical backlashes associated with that traumatic experience will forever be gone. Why is this? Well, I can definitely tell you what it's not. It doesn't mean that you're being punished. It doesn't mean that you're cursed or that something's wrong with you and that you just don't have the capacity to let go of the past and let go of all your fear. It just means that you're ready to face deeper aspects that you were not able to face before. If you hadn't done the work before, it wouldn't be cycling around again to face the deeper aspects that are negatively affecting you surrounding this particular traumatic experience. This cycle will continue to come in waves until you have transcended every particle that is shadowing your light, shadowing your authenticity and authentic expression. This is the metamorphosis process of growth through the dying to the old and transcendence of rebirth to embody new paths that promote synergy and less opposition to your integration and ascension process. It is the alchemy process of shifting all that is dark back into light, truth, and the returning to wholeness states. So don't give up. Never give up. Always seek the path of truth that leads you closer to your authentic nature, to your divinity. Choose strength and courage over discouragement, pain, and suffering. Choose to invite the feeling in your heart of the truth that you are a universal being of sovereign light and love, and choose every day to maximize all opportunities of growth, to eliminate all the learned falseness you have adopted and return to the universal truth of self. If you slip into old patterns of ego, it's okay. Don't feed into lower vibrational thoughts of guilt and shame and judgment. Just get back up, dust yourself off, and try again until you face all that keeps you from embodying your highest version of potential. And then when you think you've accomplished that, push on even further. Thank you so much for listening. Please show your support to this channel by subscribing, like this video, click the bell to receive future notifications on upcoming videos, and by all means, share this information with someone you feel can benefit. Bye for now.